Okay, in the last video we saw how to write the pseudocode. I put the function or the actual program that we'd done so far into a function called scramble, and then I just did another function for get the words from a file, so it just handles all the file manipulation in a function, and then I've got a new 3-line main program. So I'm going to get busy and put all of this into Python. It's going to be tough in places, I know that. Going back over the videos previously, particularly the list comprehension is not going to be sort of in your ballpark for the exam, but just have a look at it and give it a go if you're coding. Don't worry too much if you don't understand the exact code, as long as you sort of understand what's happening from the pseudocode, how we're sort of working out our program. So let's first of all, I know that if I've got my, let's get it up, file, new file, whoops, actually I wanted to open the file. There we go. So I've got these 4 files. I've got the file test, which is what we were doing for examples. Well, that file can go. I don't need it. We've got words text. That is the file that contains all of our words, but I think we've got some extra words in there. And I've got this second text file that I just created that can go as well. So I'm just leaving what I need in my folder. If I click on there, words text just contain 5 and 6. I don't need that, so I'm going to chuck that in the bin. File test, I don't need that. I'm going to chuck it in the bin. But if I take a look in words text, it's got chocolate, sequence, horsefly. There were the 3 words we started off with, and I put 1 and 2 in. I'm going to get rid of 1 and 2, so I've only got the 3 words in there. So I need to open that file. So if I open words text in Python, there we go, and delete those 2 lines and make sure that my cursor is on the very last letter, Y of horsefly, before I save it, and then I can begin my program. So what I'm going to do, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That means I've got to open things again. Navigate to it. So it's good practice. I'm going to open my anagram09 that I had. Now, this was a kind of end of part 1. We got this far and we knew we could do an anagram of a word. And I'm going to continue now, but I'm not going to continue in anagram1.py. I'm going to save this as anagram2. So I've always got this to come back to if I mess up. So I'm going to choose File, Save As, and just change the 1 to a 2. And it's always useful practice to do this, doing different versions of your program. It helps you go back if you've made a mistake. It also shows the progress you've made as you're going along. So this is anagram 2. Right, so let's get back to where we were. I said that I was going to take all of this and turn it into a function called scramble. So let's do that. All functions live at the top of the page. So def scramble, and it takes the source string. There we go. And that means I've got to indent all of these. You'll see how easy it is just to turn a piece of programming into a function. And the last thing I need to do is this one. I added a new line. I returned the target string. So once it's scrambled it, it's going to give it back to whoever called for it. Return target string. And that's the job done. And that is now no longer my main program. So I'm going to cut that from there. And I'm going to paste that down there. So my main program is going to start after that. So I've turned that into a function. Very, very useful. Let's just tidy that up. So let's go on to the new code. This was the new code, functions get words from file, and my new main program. So let's do this function first, and it is a bit different in pseudocode. I did the pseudocode so it could match with Visual Basic or Java or Pascal, because it's got this end of file in, and that won't be present in Python. However, I will enhance Python to check to see if the file exists before we try to open it, but that'll be later. So let's go back to our program and let's see if we can code this. So what we need is this function, get words from file. Hopefully you've got the idea now. Def means function, and then get words from file. I didn't pass in any parameters, so that's just going to be the open and close parenthesis, job done. And now I'm ready. So open the Word file. From the previous videos, that is f equals open. Whoops. We need the file name, which is words.txt, and we need the method of opening, which is to read. There we go. And as soon as I've done open, the first thing I'm going to do is this piece here, the close file, so I don't forget it. There we go. So that's closed the file. So I've only got to manage between the open and the close, and I'm going to put this line of code in now. I'll return the word, and I'm going to use camel case word list. So we're left with just managing this part. So when we open the file, what we want to do is read what exists in the text file into this variable word list. It's an array. So I'm going to say that my word list equals, if you remember how we did it, we just said what the file was, f dot, and then we had read lines. Don't forget it's read lines, not read line, otherwise you'll only get one word back. Read lines reads all of them, and that's it. So now word list contains all of the words in my file. However, all of those words in that file have a backslash and an N, so an escape and an N for a new line on the end, and I need to get rid of that. So this next line of code is really not for you. I'm going to write it. It's mainly A-level or university level, and it's called list comprehension. But the whole point of it is it goes over each and every word in the list and removes that backslash N. It strips off all the white space. So let's do that. And I'm going to do it this way first, so it's 2 lines of code, but actually I'm just going to put it all in 1 line of code on here later, but we'll do the work first. So word list equals, well, it's going to be an array, and we're going to say that we need to strip all the white space, that's the backslash R, backslash N, from X. We don't know what X is yet. We use X because it's an unknown value. 4, and now we're going to go and say that we're going to run over each item in our list. So each item is going to be X. So every time I get an item, it's going to be X. Then it's going to use the X and it's going to strip the characters from it. For X in word list, and that's it. That will strip all the characters, so my word list now will just be the words without the backslash N. But I'm going to be a little bit crafty here, so instead of having 2 lines of code, I'm going to have 1 line of code. Now word list at this point is this word list here, which is the same as that. So if I replace this word list with that, I can get rid of one line of code. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy that down and paste it in that. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that this actually works. And I'm going to delete that line of code. And there we've got it. All of this reads the words and strips the new line characters off the end and then gives it back to my calling program. So I have done this function. My next target with this would be to check to see if the file exists and exit gracefully from my program if it doesn't. But I'll do the main program first, make sure it runs, then I will come back and play with this function. So we're in the main program, which is down here. So what have I got? I've got word list equals, now we're just going to do the get words from file, which is this. So get words from file, that should return all the words that were in the file. Job done. Next I need to do this random item. Now I can see immediately that as far as Python code goes, I haven't really captured what this is doing. I'm only generating a random number here and storing it into source. Really I need to choose this array and have the random number in there. I'll explain that shortly. But first of all, I've got my random function right at the top, so I'm ready to go. So let's do that one. So my source word is going to be, excuse me, I'm going to take my word list, that's where I want to get it from, and that is an array, so I need to work out what index, whether it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. But the index is going to be this random number. So I'm going to write that. So I need to use random.randint. So that gives me a random integer. Now I need to say the two numbers between. So it starts at 0 and it ends at this one, the length of the word list minus 1. So len, in brackets, word list, and outside of the brackets, take away 1. So whatever the length is, if it's 10, it's going to take away 1 to make it 9. That's going to be 0 to 9. And that is the way I'm going to choose a random word from my word list. And because I've used variables, if I change my text file and include, I don't know, 1,000 words in there, this is still going to work. So I've got one last thing to do, which is, okay, now I've got my source word. Before we were sort of hard coding it in, we said hello and we typed hello into the program. Now we've got our source word from a file, but I need to scramble it, and we've just written that function. We just created that function from our previous program. So I just need to say that the scrambled word is equal to calling the function scramble and passing in the value source, the word that we've got from the word list. That should be it. So I'm going to save it and I'm going to run it. I already know all it's going to do is just give me the chevrons with a blank single line flashing, because I'm not actually printing anything out or doing anything with it. So we'll test that shortly. First of all, I'm going to run it. I'm going to save it and run it just to make sure I've got no errors that I need tidying up. Oops, I have got an error. And yeah, I forgot to put a colon on the end of that. Let's try that one again. No errors this time, and it seems to be working fine. That's not an indication that it's bug free. That's just an indication that what I've written so far kind of works. So I want to see what these two words are. The source word I got from the file and what it looks like scrambled. So the best way for me to do that is just print them out. And I'm going to put a message with it. So I know which one is which. Source word is, there we go, and then I'm going to print out another message which says scrambled word is, I'll put a couple of dots there and put one more dot in there so that it's the same length, and then I'm going to put on that the source word, so I'm joining it with the source word, and on that one I'm going to join it with the scrambled word. So when I run this program now, it should read the file, it should pick a word from the file, and it should scramble it, and I should see that. So let's just run this module. Okay, so there we go. The scrambled word is chocolate. The source word is chocolate, and the scrambled word is cool, whatever it is. Now, that only tells me it's done it once. If I run it again, I'm hoping to see a different value. There we go, we've got horsefly. Now I know I've got 3 words in, which is why I set that file up to only have 3 and not 1,000 words, so that I could see quickly if all 3 words were being picked out randomly. So I think sequence was the other one that was missing. That's picked horsefly again. And I'm going to continue running this program until I get my 3rd word. And if I run too long without getting it, there we go, sequence. I was going to say, if I run too long without getting it, I'll stop my program and see if I've made a mistake. But I've got all 3 words, the original word and the scramble word. Now we've got the basis for a game, which is pretty good. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to protect this area in case a file doesn't exist. Now, if you remember from previous videos, I started off with a try block, so I need to indent all of that. So try to do this, try to get a word list from a file called words.txt, and if you can't, then print a nice exit message. I am sorry, there are no words to scramble. Please check your file. There you go. So I've got a nice error message if words doesn't exist. So I'm going to try it now, and I'm going to try both of these. First of all, I'm going to try words.txt because I know it exists, so it should give me some sort of scrambled stuff. Then I'm going to change words.txt to a file name that doesn't exist and see if it runs this line of code here. So they're my 2 tests that I intend to do. So let me just save that and run it. Okay, there we go. We've got chocolate. Fantastic. So now let's change it. Now I'm changing it rather than delete the file. So if you remember, in my files, I've only got words.txt. I haven't got one here called words1. So if I try and put words1.txt, it should say, well, that doesn't exist. And instead of trying to open it and cause a crash, it should come down to this message and then end the program gracefully. So let's try that one. I need to save it first. And there we go. And actually it did crash out with an ungraceful message because we tried to return words list when there was no such thing as words list. Now, obviously we can't get a words list if we can't open and read the file. So to stop this error message happening, all we need to do is make word list an empty list. So if I type word list equals empty, then if this crashes and I get this message, then word list will be empty and I won't get this, oh, there's nothing in what is word list. I haven't got a clue what you are. So that should solve that problem. So let's save that and run it again. And this time, fingers crossed. Again, we're now trying to use words list. One way around this, because we're going to end up with lots of different errors, because it's expecting, again, something in here to be word list. Then it's going to find the source from there. Then it's going to scramble it. And there isn't anything called word list. There was nothing to return. Now I could do exactly the same thing as I did here. I could start off by making sure that it's empty before I use it. So if nothing comes back, it's empty, but I might get a different error message from that. So let's just try that. And we certainly did. We can't have an empty range. Maybe the best thing that we need to do is, I think that is the way to stop the program. So I can get rid of that. That just stops the program in its tracks at this point. So I shouldn't need to set up lots of different things through my program. And there we go. I'm sorry, there are no words to scramble. Please check your file. Do you want to kill the program? Okay. And that's it. It's exited gracefully. It hasn't let the person play the game. So there's many ways of doing this. Even this is kind of ugly. I would try to catch the errors and sort them out, but that would require too much code at this stage. So just to keep it simple, we've just said quit the program, and that's it. So a little bit of Python knowledge, obviously, but basically what I want you to see is that we followed pretty much the pseudocode that we created. I'm not coming back in here and changing the pseudocode just because my program might look a little bit different. That's the design. It's meant to look different. And that's the problem that you get when you write your program first and then do the design, is actually you should start putting in programming statements from the language that don't exist in the pseudocode. So a little bit of a lesson for you there. Okay, so we've finished this part. Now we've got a source word and we've got a scramble word. Now we can play a game. So we need to move on now and start thinking about how to keep asking for different words, maybe have a larger words file, and then thinking about scoring, how you're going to score, and then thinking about how to save it in a database. So we'll have a file for persistent storage, that's words, and we will have a database in SQL to do exactly the same thing. So onwards and upwards.